They were on a magnificent run before the international break. He's talking about a lack of belief right at the start of the interview there. How detrimental was the break in not having the Premier League fixture? It was against Leeds, wasn't it? That was postponed because of Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. How detrimental was that to his side?
Well, it just kind of hit me when he said it. And it kind of makes perfect sense when you think about it, because he has been working overtime. I mean, you told a story earlier about how he behaved after the Brentford game, what he did, the extremes he must have been going to behind the scenes to get the players into this mindset of belief, confidence, work rate, you know, all the basics that you need to win football matches at any level. And he's then had 2 weeks, probably at the most crucial point where they're making progress, but you still got to reinforce that because they've been in bad habits for seasons. So that bad habit in those 2 weeks, I think, has just crept in again. And it only needs the door to be half ajar for that to happen. And you can undo a little bit of that good work that you've done. And to me, that interview, that's what that says to me. That he knows that. He knows that he's had 2 weeks not being able to influence key players. That he's been on their case probably for 2 months. And they've just crept back into that way. And I don't think it'll take forever to switch that back. I think that enough time together, enough influence of those key messages, he's shown that he can influence that group of players, because the 4 games previous, they were performing well.
Yeah, and in Europe as well.
But what does that tell you about the players?
Yeah.
As individuals as well. You know, they need the coach to be on them all the time. Because I don't think
conditioned. They've been conditioned in that way, though. You know, like United of the past few seasons, it's almost like you're into that in treacle almost, in terms of mentally, that you're just not intense enough.
Maybe.
I mean, you could say that it's been almost a decade since they won the title, and I know they've had a couple of second-place finishes, but the margins have been quite large between first and second, if we're completely honest. Jose Mourinho got the second place, Solskjaer got second place, but way off the mark. And what do you make about this? Because there are lots of players there that have been part of this Manchester United side as underachieved. Let's not forget, it's been, half a decade since they won a trophy. Mourinho was the last manager that got one.
Yeah, and like Matt says, it's ingrained, this lack of confidence, this lack of belief. They've been hounded by the press for years now, and because they've had this break, you revert back to type, and the manager's not been on the case, and they are trying to change the whole philosophy of the team, the club. They're trying to get this winning mentality, this competitive mentality, which they've not had. They've played... You've got to remember, until Brentford, they were running 10k at least less every game than everybody they played. So that's one thing they've got to do. Then they've got a mentality, then they've got a confidence, then they've got something else. And it's not just they're not just going to drink a cup of confidence and everything's going to be okay. There are going to be bumps in the road. They are going to have 3 or 4 really good games. You think, oh, they've turned the corner. And all of a sudden, something happens early in a game and the mentality goes back to type. And it does take time, and that's why you give managers time to you know, stamp in their philosophy on the game and their mentality on the game. And that they're still young, some of them, not all of them, but some of them are still young lads, and they do need constant reassurance that this is going to work, these new methods are going to work, this is what I want you to do. And when you get into a game against a team like Man City, and you've got blue shirts flashing all around you, and you're not quite 100% sure of your role and your job, you do get a little bit confused, and you get caught out of position, and you're trying to cover your mate, and you're trying to cover your back, and all of a sudden you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You're not sure what you're doing. And I just think at times they get caught, and they've just been exposed today by an incredible Manchester City team. And now we will show them the problems that went wrong today on video tomorrow. He'll work on them in training, he'll try and put them right in the next game. And it's just a slow process of building up confidence, belief and performance.
But the thing is, there's a lot of games happening between now and the World Cup. I think this month alone, there's only about 4 or 5 days where there's no European action or no Premier League action. Everybody is all hands on deck. And I know you know the fixtures that are coming up, but have you looked at United's fixtures? I mean, OK, next up, they're going to go to... They have a trip in Europe, but if you just focus on the Premier League, they're off to Goodison Park. Everton, the Toffees look revitalised now, and they've become quite hard to beat, plenty of draws. They've got Newcastle at Old Trafford. Now, Newcastle, they've also had a lot of draws. They'll be buoyed by a victory on the weekend. Then they're hosting Tottenham. Then they're away to Chelsea, who themselves have now got a new manager. And then they finished the month against West Ham, your former side. I mean, I think it's crucial to see how he reacts. The team reacts after today's demoralising defeat. And I guess that's a real test for Erik ten Hag to face.
Yeah, and maybe there'll come a point where if there's not enough time to get those messages on the training pitch, you'll have to use the games. Yeah. He has no choice. You have to use those fixtures, and it might not be pretty.
Yeah. So one of the issues is the fact that in this month of October, Manchester United play 9 games in this month, European games, domestic games. So how much time can you get on the training park and work with your players? It's limited, isn't it?
Yeah.
So again, it's management of your squad of players when you can get on the training park leading up to games. Meetings totally separate from it. But I guess do we want to throw in some more possible excuses? Look at the unrest behind the scenes at Manchester United. There is. Half the fans don't want the current owners to be the owners of the club. There's talk that somebody might buy Manchester United out, but will the owners sell? So does that impact on these players as well? I don't know. I'd like to think it doesn't.
Yeah.
But have some of them used that as an excuse? Fans outside the stadium protesting, for example.
I think it has done in the past, possibly, but I don't think it is right at this moment in time, because I think they're trying to. They've had that managerial change, so I think the players are kind of focused on that, and I think you might not get the time on the training pitch, but just being around the players in the training ground, on the bus, on the plane, in the dressing room, whatever your message you need to give, he has an opportunity, him and his staff, to actually reinforce that all the time. And I think that's the point he's made. That's all you can do.
It's a great point that you bring up, Gary, because let's not forget, Manchester United is one of the most famous, most followed, most supported clubs in the entire world. And we're talking about outside factors, fan just affecting teams. Does that happen when you're at Manchester United because of the sheer scope of the club? We were just saying off air, Mark Robins effectively saved Sir Alex's career at Manchester United way back when, giving them a little bit of hope and something to build on. When the signs were being held up and it was, Tara, Fergie and all of that, was that distracting for the players at Manchester United at the time? You were really young then.
Well, we knew it was going on, but the manager addressed it in the dressing room. He'd come in and say, listen, don't worry about me getting the sack, let me worry about my job, and you just make sure you do your job.
And that's what Ten Hag should be doing concerning the ownership issues and all of that, you feel?
Yeah, I don't think that will really be playing a part at the moment. I think the main thing is at the moment is for the last 10 years, they've been beat up a little bit and they've had lack of confidence. They've not covered the ground on the pitch and had a work ethic like anybody else. And this is what he's trying to change. He's trying to get them working harder. He's trying to get them pressing higher at times. He's trying to play a different formation and a different philosophy. And he's trying to get belief into them. And the only way you get the belief that you are good enough is by confidence and results. And it's a sort of chicken and egg thing. And it will go and it'll come back and it'll go and it'll come back. And you just hope that it's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward. And gradually you climb the ladder and your confidence and your performance and your belief levels all grow. But it's not just going to be one flat line straight to the top. It's going to be a little bit of a rocky road, but incrementally you're going to climb the table. You're going to climb in performance, climb in confidence. You'll have a couple of new players come in maybe in the winter window, a couple more players come in the summer window. He's had 3 or 4 players come in this year that still need bedding in and getting to know the pace of the Premier League and the rigours of the Premier League. So it's a building process, and this is why he needs time, and it's not going to happen overnight. And everybody, United fans are all like, "Oh, we've had a great pre-season. we've come back from Brentford. We've won 4, and we're on the way back." And it's never going to be like that. From the 10 years previous, it's never going to. If you've had 2 years away from it, then maybe. But when you've had 10 years away from being at the top, it's going to be a slightly slower process and a little bit more painful. But the depth of which he will go to, and he's building roots now. Yeah. To grow this big tree, and the roots need.
He was shocked, wasn't he? He was really honest. He was shocked about how far they'd regressed in that period of time. To say that's actually really honest of him in an interview after a game. To say I was surprised how we had no belief. Yeah. I mean that's very open.
Yeah. But they started off so slow and on the back foot, and just pure lacking belief and confidence.
Is that a thing after international breaks, though, when you played? And Matt's nodding his head there, so...
Well, yeah, I think after international breaks, I think it happens after European football as well. When you come back from a European trip, I think you see top teams struggle some weeks after European football, and the lads have been away and they've all been around different club players, and they've had a bit of time away from their own manager and the philosophies in the training ground, and they have a little moan up because they've been running too much or they've been doing this. They don't like this bit of training. The manager's had a go at them about this, and they all get the gripes off the chest, and they come back and it's all a new start. And I agree with Matt. I think the break for Man United over the last 2 or 3 weeks has been far more detrimental than Man City's.
I think if you spoke to most Premier League managers and said, what performances are you most feel like you're not in control of or you're concerned about, I think a lot of them would refer to the fact that game, if they're away from home on the Saturday or the Sunday after an international where half the team's gone to South America or Europe or wherever they may have gone. Yeah, it's a bit of an unknown for a manager.
And I guess the clubs that are more solid, Man City, because Guardiola's been there a number of seasons now, it's not so difficult to get the players back and into the groove straight away because they've been grooved for a number of months, years, seasons. Whereas Ten Hag hasn't been at Manchester United for very long. And the principles that he's been trying to lay down aren't fully laid down, and so therefore they're a bit flimsy, aren't they?
And I bet you anything that Guardiola will know what players will come back in better state to perform in the first Premier League game. I mean, it's interesting, we spoke about Ruben Diaz before, how he doesn't appear to,
not
statistically...
frequently, no.
Doesn't travel well.
Doesn't play in that fixture one after international. But now I don't know why that is, but it's obviously a pattern. And it's interesting, but I think all the managers, once they get to know their players, will know, well, I know what I can get out of him. I might need to leave him on the bench for this game. He's normally in my starting 11, and I'll make him feel like he is, and he's still my guy. But I'm not going to start him today. I'm going to bring him on after 60 minutes and let him have half an hour. And I think you learn how to manage your players in that way.
I don't think we should forget that there are players in this squad, like De Gea, who date back to Sir Alex's time. And then there's players there that were bought by Mourinho and Solskjaer and Van Gaal. So a smorgasbord of different players. But I'll give you the solution to international breaks. Do what Mark Hughes did. Play for your national team and your club team in the same day. He did that once for Wales and I think Bayern Munich.
Really?
Yeah, I'm completely serious.
Did he?
You know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. 2 matches in a day.
Two matches. I asked him on the show. He joined us once via...
We're on Zoom.
Zoom, yeah. And he told us that.
They're obviously close.
I don't know how close they were, but he played the second half of his club game. And
he didn't get on a plane
country.
between them, surely.
I think he did.
Yes, there was a plane involved.
There was a plane involved, yeah. So there's your solution. Play 2 games in a day.
Wow.
Red zoning all the time.